Thank you so much for joining me. It is the last day of July, which is kind of blowing my mind. But want to thank you all for joining me. We are here to learn about JQL and how that can help us find things in Jira. I explicitly don't say this will help us search because searching implies we might not find something. So hopefully we're setting our mental intention and where we want to go as finding the thing and not just looking around for it. For me, finding things in Jira is one of the most frustrating parts of using the system. So here we're going to, learn some tricks in JQL, mostly covering off the basics so everyone knows how this tool works so we can be better at finding all those things we want to find in Jira. I'll give folks a little bit of time to join us. Expecting a pretty good crowd today, but thrilled to see folks are already in here waiting for us. Chad, good morning, my friend. Good to see you. Rodney's going to keep razzing me every time I say JQL. I need to remember that some folks, don't get the joke that I try to make, or the term that I'm trying to push for the proper pronunciation of Jayquill, which is okay. All right, got my overlays set up. Jose, welcome. Juanma, welcome. Debbie, yes, don't try finding fields in archive projects. Liz, reading JQuil functions can be hard. Juanma, it is still here, my friend. I can bring it back for you. I'll put it where you can see it. There you go. I switched to the skateboards. I found this one at a local coffee shop. A local artist really liked his stuff, so I moved the base. I got to figure out where to put it, though, so maybe I'll bring it back. Morning, JME from Florida. Good to see you, my friend. Kythra, good morning. Well, I hope it's a good morning. Anyway. All right, folks, we're going to get started. Again, talking about JQL. You'll hear me use the term Jayquill. That's my joking way of saying it. Excuse me. But we're going to dig in and learn how to find things in Jira. One more quick tweak. And here we go. So first, just by way of introduction, my name is Rob. I've been using Atlassian products since about 2013, 2012, somewhere in there. But my whole career has been in information technology, so working in different types of ticketing systems and having to manage knowledge and information. I started out on the help desk. The first thing I ever did was deliver a monitor, and it was a big CRT, those cathode ray tube things, for a graphics designer, incredibly heavy. But since then, been working on a help desk, managed a help desk, made a help desk from scratch, been a project manager, scrum master, consultant, name it, I've been around it or done it. Most recently, I've made a transition to becoming a freelance content creator. So I'm now a professional content creator, instructor. I'll talk more about that as we go. And the joke for today is you'll hear me use the term Jayquill. I'm referring to JQL. In the same way we say SQL, SQL. Christina, Scott, Sarah, good morning. Welcome. Good to see you. Now, I really like using YouTube because you can all see and hear me. The problem is I can't see or hear you. So please use the chat. Many of you have found it already. It's going to be over my left shoulder on the right side of your screen. So please use that to ask questions. Please use that to put in information. You're going to also see polls pop up. And here's a straightforward one that I can use to interact. So is JQL frustrating? Did that not go? That did not go. Well, that was very anticlimactic, folks. Let me try this again. So I can also add a poll just to give some more interaction. Please feel free just to click on those answers as well as they come up and as they fall off. And I can also drop a question in there. So one thing I've been doing is adding this start a Q&A. I'm honestly on the fence around using this question feature because then other folks can't easily see your question. I have to bring it up. But please use that chat to interact with other people, to respond to things, to share information. Don't think of it just as me talking to you and you talking to me. This is really about the 30, 40, 50 people in here all together learning as a group. Now, in terms of Other ways to interact with me, you can subscribe to the channel. I do a couple videos a week, multiple live streams, and the easiest way you can support me is hit the like button. So it's a little thumbs up. If at any point during the stream you're like, hey, I like this, just push the like button. That will help other people find this content. And also let me know that you think this stuff is interesting and useful. We've got about 50 folks. I'd love to get to like 20 or 30 likes. If we could all like it, that would be stupendous. I haven't gotten there quite yet. You can also save and share this. If there's someone else at your organization or someone else who you know who may benefit, please by all means share this with them so they can have the benefit of learning this as well. A quick agenda. Now, I'll cover these concepts as we go, and I'll be going back and forth between the agenda, between the concepts and ideas, and then between hands-on work. So I'll talk a little bit about Jira and JQL and then go look at it. And then I'll come back to some slides about JQL and Jira and just bounce back and forth. I found that this is a little bit better. We get hands-on more throughout it, and you get to kind of build up the skill. And this is based on feedback you all gave me to make these better. So thank you all who filled that out. One more shout out I'll do. One way you can support the channel is these things called supers. And so I'll just put this up in the top. If we hit this goal of, I think, 5 of them, I'll do another follow-up on JQL. So if you want to support the channel, that's one easy one-time way. But on to our JQL. So first question is, do you use Jira and what for? And this is just a high level, curious how folks are using it. JQL shows up in every flavor of Jira. In Jira Service Management, in what they used to call Jira Software and Jira Work Management, in now just straight up Jira. So it shows up in all the Jiras. Oop, and I don't need that text there, do I? It's not going away. So how we use Jira can have an impact on how we use JQL, partially because we need to understand how it works and what we can do in it, but also because it will impact different ways we choose to use it. And my chat overlay is breaking. Now, Jira is that online work tracking tool commonly used stereotypically by software developers. But again, Jira can benefit many teams, which means many teams are going to benefit from learning and using JQL. Okay, that does work. Awesome. So it's not just about the software developer or the project manager or the Scrum. Rodney wants to know if there's a stretch goal. If I got 25 people supporting me through a 24-hour live stream seems a bit excessive. Maybe I'll do a 5-hour live stream, Rodney, just for you. If we get to 25, though. I like Debbie's comment here. Jira is my life. Now, this is a good point Debbie makes because we will all interact with Jira in different ways and different levels. Some of you listening may be using JQL right now, every minute, every hour of your day. Other folks may only use it from time to time. And that's why it's important to remember these concepts, because these terms will help us look up help. But also it's important to remember we can all help each other out a little bit. There's always someone who we can share something with to help them improve their skill, even if we know a little bit of thing. So thank you all for learning. Now, the first thing to know about JQL is it looks at work items. These used to have an old name, which I won't bring up. But work items represent something we need to do. That thing we need to do could be fix, a regular expression, regex, to extract a username. It could be go to the grocery store to get groceries. It could be build a new marketing plan. Regardless of what that thing is, that work item will contain multiple fields. And these fields are what JQL, Jayquill, and search interact with. Now, the fields you have on your work items are going to differ based on your organization's setup. So all these arrows are pointing at different fields. These are not all the fields on this work item. These are just the ones that were immediately visible. So being able to look at a work item and understand what the fields are is an important aspect of search and of finding, because they will be what you are looking at when you type in a JQL query. So usually when I'm looking into JQL, I will have a work item open. That's something I want to find. And then I look at it and I go, okay, there's a field here called priority. Okay, that makes sense. This is a critical one. I want to do a search on this. I want to find all the high priority or critical priority. The other thing that might be confusing is as you move between Jira instances, the fields can change. because there's this concept of a custom field. Out of the box, Jira will always include a set of fields. For example, the key, that's up in the top left. That's the number of the work item or the ticket. The description, the summary are always there. So you can always count on those. However, you will work in organizations that will have, I'll say, many to many more custom fields. And this can be challenging because if you're unfamiliar with what they are, you don't know to look for them. So that's where having a work item up on your screen and looking at it or talking to people about the fields that are available can help. Now we access JQL through our search, and we're going to jump in to do this live in just a moment. But our search is almost always available with this / hotkey. So if you hit that / it's also the question mark button on my keyboard. The search bar will open up, and this is one of the quicker ways to get into what they call filtering. And we'll talk more about filtering as we go. And this is my reminder to teleport into Jira. And a reminder to all of you, if you like this at any time, hit the like button. That's the easiest, simplest way to support me. Also helps other people find this content. We are going to be looking at Jira Cloud Premium, but everything I show you should work in every version of Cloud, and it should work in Data Center. I don't think I'm doing anything with JQL that Data Center can't also support. Now, I mentioned search, and there's two ways to find it. In the new nav, I don't know how long I can say it's the new nav. In the nav that exists now, is this big bar across the top. In the old nav, you might remember, they kind of crammed it into the corner. It was really easy to miss. So you can either click on this, or just hit the / button on your keyboard to bring it up. And this is the basic search. This isn't very basic. I'm not going to dig too deep into it, but here you can just start typing in a keyword or something like that. What's a good one? I know there's work items in here with the term Jayquill. So here I can quickly search. Now the interesting thing, if you notice, Jira selected the JQL way of filtering. So right here I have a JQL statement, and we'll pull this apart as we go. So if you don't understand everything that's happening here, that's totally okay. Here I have some JQL. So even though I didn't have to type it in, Jira is still creating that for me because that's how Jira looks for work items. Jira doesn't have, when Jira does its own search, it pushes this into its system. And so every time we do any kind of search, it's going to be generating JQL. And this is pretty neat because if I come in here and I use what's called the basic search to look for things, I'm going to end up creating JQL and I don't even know it. So here I just click some projects. If I click back onto JQL, here I can see some JQL that can help me out. This is one way to practice and learn JQL. If this is intimidating, and this can be scary, especially if you're not familiar with a query language or a system, you can use the basic search and then click the JQL rocker to kind of get an idea of, oh, that's what that looks like in JQL. And again, we'll examine each piece of this so you understand what it is. So that's how to access search. Again, it's at / or click in this bar, and then you can bounce between the basic and the JQL. If you're on Cloud Premium or Enterprise, we also have Atlassian Intelligence. And with Atlassian Intelligence, I can just type in a natural language search, find me every ticket about Jayquill, and that will generate the JQL necessary to find those work items. So this is another way to learn JQL. If you have Premium or higher, you can use Atlassian Intelligence to help you out here. Now this is built into Jira. You could also use some kind of LLM, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, pick your flavor, to do the same thing. I would always double check the results you get and never put in anything sensitive into those platforms. Debbie's got a good call out here. It is possible you're on Cloud Premium or Enterprise and you do not have access to Atlassian Intelligence AI because your admins have decided you shouldn't get to use it. So in that case, you might have access, you might have the ability to use it, but your admins have prevented access. So apologies if you're stuck in that boat. Quick teleport back into our slides. I'm going to put up another poll, and it looks like most of us do not find Jayquill frustrating. I love that. About half of us do, though, and I want to thank the folks who said, yeah, this is frustrating, because that can be hard to stand up and say. What's the most frustrating thing about finding work items? I'll put in some answers in the poll, but also feel free to type them on in. So just a quick poll, and again, there could be other reasons. Feel free to drop them in the chat, just so we can share and see what we get into. Whoa, my slide is larger than life. I'm sorry, folks. Whew. Chad, you saved me there. Although I definitely shot myself in the foot. Let me try this again. What is the most frustrating thing about finding work items? I have a little bit... I'm changing my setup from time to time, and you'll notice it looks a bit different. Some of my hotkeys also changed. Forgive me. Now, when we think of finding things in work items, in Jira, or really in any system, we need to understand how those systems store information and data. Jira is basically a gigantic spreadsheet, and this is an oversimplification. But if we were to go to Atlassian and talk to a data engineer, they would be pulling up, they're called tables in a database that contain information. And these tables look exactly like an Excel spreadsheet, exactly like a Google Sheet. Now, this concept really helped me. It's much more complicated than that because there's so many tables that are all tied together in different ways and they're updated and removed and all this. But if you can keep in your mind, when I do a search, I'm basically filtering a giant spreadsheet. That can make it seem a lot more approachable. When I understood this, it really helped my concept of what am I doing when I come in here. Debbie finds it frustrating. Oh, another typo. Which was the one I had last time? If anyone in the chat can remember, I had a great typo spelling like the word doubt or something. I'll add that to my list of whoopsies. I do also want to say we have a Discord server where I'm keeping track of all my bad typos, as well as a lot of other topics. There's about 180 folks in there talking about things like JQL, so feel free to join us. If you're joining from a work account, your work may block that, so you might need a personal email. But that's a great place to go for continued support, for a sense of community, and sharing information about Atlassian products. So understanding this concept of how the filter works and what it's doing helped me approach and be more comfortable using JQL. Because if I can think of it like, oh, I can filter a spreadsheet, sure. Oh, I can search in Jira, sure. That helped that connection. Now, filters, you'll see the term filter show up in Jira instead of the term search. This kind of drives me crazy because most people, when they want to go find something, they don't say, I'm going to go filter for it. They say, I'm going to go search for the thing. So when you're in Jira, you're going to see the term filter. And I have this is a slightly older slide. Whoops. We've got filters in the top, and then on the left, we've got the filters menu in the new UI. But this is where all of your filters will live. And this is briefly where we were a few minutes ago when he got hands-on. But this is the search menu. And this is confusing to a lot of new folks because they're expecting to see a search menu. So let your teams know that this in their UI is where they can go to search for things, but also save them. Getting a lot of good response on the frustrating things. Not knowing the field names is tied with not knowing JQL. Liz has a whole bunch. Custom field names. I think I'll talk about custom fields. Duplicative fields. Smart values being renamed. And using JQL operators that don't work in connected apps. Ooh. That's a good point that Liz makes. What I'm going to show you is only in, I call it vanilla Jira. I don't have any add-ons. I don't have any extra apps. Your organization may have other apps or add-ons, though, that give you additional features or functions in JQL. So keep in mind, you may have some extra tools that I'm not able to show you. And kind of a related question, and just digging more into, do you use JQL or Jayquill? And if you do, what's the most frustrating thing? Similar question to what I'm asking here of like, what's frustrating about search? For me, it's when there are multiple custom fields with the same name. Because I, as a human, can't easily tell the difference between priority, 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 and priority. I have to go and look up which one is the one I want. Isabella gets frustrated with dates. 100%, my friend. While I'm thinking about it, the QR code right under my head goes to a Udemy course I have just on JQL. It's 2.5 hours, and it covers everything we're talking about, but also functions, handling dates, etc. I'll talk more about that as we go, but that's a good resource if you're looking for something, and that's the cheap price. So now we're going to pull apart JQL. And this is where understanding these concepts and ideas and how Atlassian has decided to set this up is going to help us both look up help. So if I don't understand, what a statement is in JQL, it's really, really hard for me to go search for it. There's other terms we'll dig into, but this is the basic setup we'll see. We have that rocker, which we just saw on how we could switch between our basic and our JQL search. Searching with labels, frustrating. Yeah. Curious, Sarah, what's frustrating about searching for labels? If you could expand on that. And then we have our statement. The statement is the JQL query. And there are parts to this statement that we'll talk about that we need to understand what each one does to have an effective and a useful JQL query. We do also have this little save button hiding way over in the corner. And by default, queries aren't saved. So I like to go save them off. You can also just copy the URL of the query. So once you search and the query looks good, you can like bookmark that or save the URL and give it to someone. That'll also work. Key is case sensitive. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that, Debbie. Thank you for helping me learn something today. Typically, JQL isn't case sensitive, so it doesn't matter if it's an uppercase C or a lowercase c, but it looks like Debbie found one case where it is. Excuse the bad joke. So we're going to pop back into Jira briefly. And this is that filters menu. If you use it, if you find it from the search, if you type in something here, it'll bring you to filters. You can also find it in your navigation menu by opening filters, and then they call it search for work items. So they're kind of going back and forth between search and filter, which just personally bugs me. But here is that JQL search that we have. There's a couple of parts in here that we're going to dig into, but everyone has to have a field, some kind of operator, and some kind of value. And so with these three things, we can build a query. The simplest query just has those three things. So if all you remember from this, you need a field, an operator, and value, you're going to be a step ahead and further along in terms of understanding JQL. And we'll explore these a lot more in the next set of slides. The other thing I do want to point out is saving. There's one massive annoyance with saving. If you, by default, they're hidden. So if I save this and click save, I am the only person who will be able to see this filter. I honestly, other than it would clutter up your screen, I don't know why Atlassian automatically does this. Like it hides filters from everyone. Because if I don't have access to the work items, if I don't have permission to see them, they don't show up in search. The problem a lot of folks run into is they go and save this wonderful search and they haven't added someone. No one else will be able to see it. And you'll notice I had to click this add button. If you don't click the add button, those groups aren't added. So just calling this out because this frustrates me. It's frustrated me for years. If you don't click add and then click save, those people aren't actually shared on your save filter. So this is where we'll type in our JQL statement. At minimum, a field, an operator, a value. There's also things called keywords we'll talk about that let us make more complex queries or change the logical operation of a query. That is just a complex way of saying how the query evaluates information. A quick coffee break for Rob. I think I have one more question. Oh, I have a very bad, this is a very bad joke. Does anyone know how JQL is like Santa? And I'll pour some more coffee as people consider how JQL might be like Santa. Debbie's got another frustration with filters on dashboards. If the only person with access leaves, you have to go break in and fix them. Yes, I'm glad we have our admins. They both have clauses. Santa Claus. This is a very bad joke. A clause in the context of JQL is one complete part of the query. And so when you're looking for help, you might see the term clause, C-L-A-U-S-E, I think. I'm pretty sure I got that spelling right. That just refers to a complete part of the query. And the smallest query will just have a single clause. And that's where this field operator value comes in. Field project operator equals value JQL JSM. Now, again, every clause, every part of the query will have this. Liz is being a ghost for some reason. Why do you don't like my joke? Come on, I thought a lot about that one. I'm going to put another poll and just see if people like that joke or not. Frustrating parts, you don't know the field name and you don't know JQL. Yes. So just a quick poll, was that joke funny? I will point out it is hard to come up with Atlassian jokes, if anyone can help me out. So this field operator value is an important thing to know about how to build a query. And when I started, I didn't know this. I didn't know where to put, the certain terms and keywords, and so my queries constantly just failed. Now, fields can be any field on a work item. So in this example, in this screenshot, we have reporter, but I also see there's reporter.property and reporter assets. So the nice thing about Jira is it will autocomplete. It will help pull in other possible values that fit whatever you're typing. So you don't have to memorize every field name perfectly, but you do have to know which one of the ones that show up you want to use. And this is where some people said is frustrating because you don't know every custom field. There might be 3 called reporter because there's 2 other custom fields. Excuse me. Now this last one is important. It has CF and then a number. This is a custom field. So reporter assets was added by a Jira admin to Jira. And I know that because it's saying it's a custom field right at the end. And then this number is the number, its unique identifier. So this is telling me reporter and reporter property just come with Jira. This can be very helpful, just knowing this. Because then I know, oh, this reporter is the reporter on the work item. This one is something that an admin made somewhere. Where it'll get frustrating is when you have 5 that are all custom fields with the same name. And then you have to go to your work item and try and suss out which one is it. Oh, I had another slide about that. Perfect. And that's where this CF is very useful. So just keep in mind, when you see CF, that means custom field. So that may or may not be the field you're looking for. Liz, and I'm happy to report most of the people who responded think the joke was funny. So we've got the field, the first part. Next, we have the operator. And the operator is what we're using to compare the field to our value. So when I think of a full query, I need a field, the operator, and the value. The field is where I'm looking, and the operator is how I compare to what I want to find. So I might say, I want to know where the reporter is equal to Rob. Or maybe I want to know where the reporter is not equal to Rob. And these are important distinctions because the operator we pick will directly impact the results we get back. For example, this is equals to, so if reporter is equal to Rob, it'll only find work items where Rob's a reporter. Not equals to, it'll give me everything else. It'll ignore Rob and pick the rest. The nice thing about JQL is it only gives you operators that work with the field you have selected. For example, I can't use greater than with reporter because reporter greater than Rob doesn't make sense. I can't count Rob the way I could count a date or a numerical value. The operator, though, will return those true scenarios. So where it's true that the reporter is Rob, we'll get back results. Again, it'll only give you safe to use operators, though. So you don't have to memorize which operators work with which fields. The last bit is the value. And this is what we expect to find in that field. So again, reporter is equal to Alana. Great, that'll give me all the work items where it's Alana. What's the difference between equals and is? Can anyone help out Sarah in the chat? I'm curious if the team can come to our defense here. Debbie is asking, is there anything useful like seeing custom fields listed against team managed fields? There is a distinction in Jira between a team managed and company managed project. The biggest difference for the purposes of search, in a team managed project, project admins can make new fields to put on their work items. There is no visual distinction, Debbie, that I'm aware of, other than it's a custom field. So it shouldn't show up as a system field, but I don't know if reporter assets came from a team or a company managed project. And that's one of the challenges of using team managed projects is all of our admins are running around adding their own stuff, and they may be accidentally adding duplicative fields. The value can also be something special called a function. So in this screenshot, I could say there's no reporter. I could say a specific name, or I could say current user. And it's got these little parentheses. Functions are like a mini program that runs, and it brings back some kind of different value. For example, in this example, I talk good. In this example, current user isn't going to always be Rob. It's going to be whoever runs the query. And so if Liz runs it, it would say reporter equals Liz. If Chad runs it, reporter equals Chad. So functions are a great way to make our queries more flexible, especially in this case of current user, but also let us make things like dates be relative. I don't have to type in the first Monday of every week when I search for created is greater than the first day of the week. I have a function that just looks at the calendar and grabs it for us. Robert coming in. Thank you, my friend. The is operator. And this is, again, just something we need to know about JQL that can be frustrating, especially for new folks, and even for folks who are fairly comfortable with it. There are these little nuances, and it's not that Atlassian is trying to mess with us, although I can't prove that. I'm pretty sure Atlassian isn't doing it intentionally to make us angry, but we just have to know that is works with empty or null. And I don't know if I have slides on those, so maybe I'll just talk about them right now. Let's pop back into Jira. There is a concept in computers of null, and it just means there's nothing there. So in this case, the team field, it's empty. There's nothing here. It's not that there's a 0. It's not that there's a placeholder. It's just blank. And that's what a null is. It's blank. And so if I go search, I'll use team as the example. Uh-oh. And right away, I have a problem. Now I can see I have two fields called team, and team. So this is a good example. Guided your point, Sarah. I don't know which one of these was made where. Oh, it went away. What I do get is a little bit more information. I can see that this first team is a dropdown, and this second team is just a text field. So if I click into this team, I can't tell which one it is. So let's just try the dropdown. So that's my field, team dropdown, and it's including that dropdown so I can visually see. I can then say equal to a specific value. And I can see the first one is empty, but I also have the actual values that are in that field. So this is the dropdown. It's a list of 5 things I could pick. So I could just select Tiger. I would hit enter. And now for some reason, Team Tiger needs password help. My other option, if I use the is operator, I only get one value, and that's empty. Now I think I can actually also type in null, and this will work. But for some reason in JQL, the term null and empty are synonymous and interchangeable. This bothers me just because I work with a lot of systems folks, and usually the term is just null. But that's the purpose of the is operator. So again, Robert, thank you for calling that out. Sorry, Sarah, which example was that? I'm going to go back in and we're going to just keep playing around with the field operator value. If you don't type in a field, come back. You'll just get a list of a whole bunch of fields. It cuts it off after, I want to say, 20 or 30 fields. So I'm not going to scroll endlessly through every field, fortunately. And I do want to just ask for folks, if you're liking this so far, hit the like. Maybe you just like the bad joke I made that Liz booed. Or maybe you're finding this actually useful and you'll share it with your coworkers, but hit that little like button for me if you're finding this useful. This is a list of all the possible fields. So this may or may not be helpful, and you'll see some in here have that CF after them. To Sarah's point though, I don't know if affected laptop is in a company or a team managed project. All I know is it's a custom field. The other thing about custom fields, you can type in its identifier, CF10300. At least I should be able to do this. CF10300. There we go. I don't recommend doing this unless you know for sure what it is, but you don't have to memorize these. You can just click on application impacted and it's going to figure it out for you. All right, some other things I can do. The assignee and reporter are very common fields. And again, I just have knowledge of the work items in here or the things my team would be interested in finding. So I will use these quite a bit, especially assignee. And some of these also have some special operators that track the history of the values. Not every field does this, but I can see the assignee was someone. I want to see everywhere where the assignee was Rob. And this can be a very useful query just to figure out, or this can be a very useful clause to add to your queries to figure out where the assignee was. One call out for things like this left column is assignee. If the current person is that assignee, it also shows up. Oh, gotcha. So here, if I do assignee equals a specific person, I can do it, but you'll notice empty shows up. I don't like, Sarah, I'm unsure why we have the option to use the is operator. It's like logically, you'll hear me use the term logically similar. Assignee is empty is identical, logically similar to assignee equals empty. So you might see people do one or the other depending on their preference. Neither is wrong, they're just a little bit different. The thing to keep in mind is if you use is, your only option is empty. Whereas if you use equal, one of your options is empty. You could type in other things. Debbie's got a good use case. Assignee was a person's name. Show evidence of underperformers. Ooh. But that's a good way to kind of go through and see who had been assigned to this work item. It can help you as the admin or you as the team member pull apart what's going on. So that is the very basic, again, clause. Our field, some kind of field. We've got priority, some kind of operator, and then some kind of value. And you'll notice with priority, we have greater than or less than comparisons. I've got the was, so you'll get different operators based on what you're looking for or which field you're using. Now, I didn't realize this, but priority is numerical apparently, because I can use the greater than operator, which is kind of nifty. Okay, back to our slides. Quick coffee break for Rob. And a question for the group. Sarah, I'll let my friends at Atlassian know that we have decided we no longer need the is operator. How many JQL keywords, I guess, can you name? And I'll put a poll up just asking which of these are real keywords. So just a quick poll, which one is not? Oh, sorry. Chad is one of my channel members. He's a coffee sponsor, and one of his roles is to make sure I'm drinking enough coffee. So that's another way you can support the channel by becoming a member. It'll get you a fun little star, extra emojis, but also early access to most of my videos. So please consider becoming a channel member to help support me. We've got a couple of tiers, one of which includes my entire back catalog of live learnings. This, however, is coffee, and it's on a mug that has another joke on it, so I appreciate it. All right, I'll let that poll go for a little bit because I think I exposed the most of the list in just a moment. And just a reminder, if you're liking this, please hit the like button. And you could like it for any reason. It doesn't have to be a specific purpose. Keywords are things that show up between clauses. So the searches we've done so far, the filters, the searches we've done so far have been very simple, just one clause, one set of field operator value. Keywords allow us to combine multiple clauses to make a more complex query, and this is incredibly common. In the example we see on the screen, I am saying give me every work item where Robert is the reporter and is in the ETMP project. And what you just heard me do read this sentence in English is another helpful way to practice these queries. I can look at this and my brain just translate this into what it does, but a good way to learn JQL is to try and read it as an English sentence. And I use English because that's the language I'm using, but whichever language you speak, just read it left to right. Where the reporter is Robert, or give me every ticket where the reporter is Robert and the project is ETMP. That helps me understand what's happening because there's a lot of stuff in here. These keywords are responsible for combining clauses or for doing things like changing the logic of a clause. For example, I could add not in front of project, and that would, everywhere it's not project is ETMP. So these keywords are important because they allow us to more finely control and manipulate our search. Each one is explicitly defined, and you can't name fields after keywords, that kind of thing. So there is a discrete list. I don't know if any apps provide additional keywords. So I'll have a list up in a moment and we'll play with some of these. But these are the keywords that I use on a daily basis. If, and most of us, 74% of it so far got correct, if is not a JQL keyword. One of the challenges, if you know other query languages, for example, SQL, Structured Query Language for Databases, it is similar to JQL, but not the same. There are substantial differences. There's, again, the if keyword. There's no where clause, those kind of things. So these are the keywords we can use. And is the most common, and this shrinks down what you get. So if I say reporter is Rob and project is JQL, that's going to be less tickets, less work items than if I just said reporter is Rob. Or is one of the most annoying keywords because it will expand your query. I have seen many people struggle with or because they type it in and they suddenly get a lot more work items. For example, if I type in Robert or reporter equals Rob or project is JQL, I'll get every ticket where Rob's a reporter and every ticket in JQL. So if you type in a query and you get a lot more results, check if you're using or. You might have accidentally expanded your results. Not will flip the logic. For example, not reporter equals Rob. This is logically equivalent to the does not equal operator in many cases. So Sarah, this is another instance of, equals empty and is empty are the same. Using the not operator can have the same end result as the does not equal. We've talked a bit about empty and null. That's just a keyword that says a field without a value. And last we have order by. This one does show up in SQL oddly, but this will then order it by a field. So if I say order by project, it'll give me an alphabetized list. Liz has an interesting point, and this gets a much more technical than we'll get into here. Liz, let's continue this discussion over in Discord. And again, a shout out to my Discord community. I imagine there is a select clause in JQL. We just as humans don't see it. And my argument for that is we display columns, and that's what we're selecting. But I will pause that discussion because we can go real in deep on that one. One other shout out for help though, please give me your feedback. I create these courses fairly much in a vacuum. It's just me sitting around going, people will like JQL. And I really would like to know, is this useful to you? Is this beneficial? Do you want more? Or are there things you don't want me to do? Are there other topics? Do you want more bad jokes about SQL? So please take a moment. That goes to a Google form. You can fill it out anonymously if you choose, but please let me know how this is doing for you, what other topics you want to hear from, any other feedback you have for me. Because again, I am now a professional content creator and trainer, and I want to make sure I'm giving you the best possible stuff. And now we teleport back into Jira. Again, quick reminder, if you like this, please hit the thumbs up, the like button. That'll help other people find it, and it's also a super easy way to support me. We got about 20 likes and about 50 people. That is amazing, folks. So I'm going to start with just a fairly straightforward query, reporter equals me. Reporter, if I can spell it right. One of the nice things about this autocomplete is you can just click on it and it will fill it in for you. So this is my basic single clause query. Very useful because it finds that. However, if I look in this list, I can see multiple projects, the TME, SD, RTS. I can see different priorities. I can see some are assigned. So I want to narrow this down. Maybe I want to see every work item where I am also the assignee. So to do this, I need to extend my query and add a new clause using the AND keyword. And then I'll just add and assignee equals Robert Hean. Now my list will shrink. I get 22 results from this because it's requiring the system to find anywhere the assignee and reporter are Rob. So remember, and will shrink the number of work items you get. If I make this an OR, it's going to expand my results because it will grab any ticket where I'm the assignee and then combine that with any ticket where I'm the reporter. So I get 118. So there's another 92 tickets floating around out there that meet both of this criteria. If you notice this happening, step back and look for this OR operator because it's a very common mistake, especially as folks are new to this type of search. I love this question from Rodney. Has anyone seen a JQL query long enough to break Jira? And what's the longest JQL you've seen? Amazing. Smart INV, thank you for sharing the group by. You're correct, that also doesn't show up. So again, and OR are the most common operators because they allow us to control, or more finely control, what work items show up. Now, operators will appear after you add a field or after you add a value. So after I type in Robert Hean, and hit a space, I'll see all the valid operators. The order by operator always shows up at the end of the query. So I'll get another list of fields, but this isn't saying go find work items with this field or a value. Instead, it's saying, oh, I want to, I can't spell today. I want to order by the priority field ascending. ASC ascending, DSC descending. So it's going to give me the lowest value priority first. And then as I go down, I'll get higher value priorities. So this doesn't add or remove work items. It just changes how they're displayed. Now, if you're using boards in Jira for managing work and you want to rank them, you have to have an order by clause. So just a heads up for you folks using boards, you need that. Rebecca, if it's possible, I don't know if you're in our Discord, could you grab one of those long enough queries your admin reduced and share it just so folks could see in Discord what a super long query is? Please change any sensitive names or anything, but I'm always curious what happens. I like these comments too about queries and simplifying them. This is where, like when I learned JQL, I just started typing stuff in and it worked. However, I had someone take a look at it and say, hey, if we rearrange it or make it different, it'll be shorter and easier to understand. And it's logically equivalent. That same phrase again, it does the same thing at the end. So that's important for us to understand. Like, reach out and ask for help or talk to other people about your queries because they can help you improve them in ways that maybe you don't understand. And that's what I've learned over time. But it's been because I've spoken to people like Rodney and Chad and Liz and other people I work with, and they can help me see all those differences. Now, I can just keep adding clauses. And priority equals critical and assignee equals Rob. At some point, I'm going to have so many and statements in here, no tickets will meet that criteria though. So this is an important thing to remember about JQL. It is just a tool like any other tool. Before I start building a query, I take a moment to think, what do I want to get or what am I expecting? And this will help me design that query. It will help me go research, like open up a work item and review the fields I have. Is it even possible for me to grab these types of work items? And so here I'll talk to my team a lot to understand what's going on. What do they need to learn or understand about their work items? Or what other feature am I working on? For example, if I'm building a query in Jira Service Management, maybe I want to include SLA information just to make sure my agents have access to that. Or maybe I want to include some other fields or other types of things. So be careful with JQL about just jumping in. You want to make sure you're taking time to step back and understand what you're searching for, and that'll help kind of guide your development process. It'll make it easier for you as a human to translate what your team needs into JQL. Debbie is the JQL queen, Your Majesty. Now, that's kind of my path as well. I was not crowned the JQL queen. I just found it to be interesting, and my job required me to work with work items. So that's another great inspiration. I've got a few minutes, though. I'm curious, what JQL do you need help with, or what kind of questions do you have about it? I want to leave some dedicated time. So please drop in the chat if you've got a specific use case, if you want to see how a certain operator works. I have some other examples I'll just start going through as I'm waiting for questions. But if you have specific ones, please let me know. And if you're watching this recording, drop them in the comments. I can help you out there. I've talked about functions, and I'll use a couple of functions. Actually, functions or dates. Let me put a quick poll. So a quick poll, would you rather learn more about functions in the next 5 minutes or dates? Sachin, do long field names included in JQL affect loading? I don't believe so. Atlassian does a pretty good job about optimizing things like search. Where you could expect to see longer query times is if your query pulls back a lot of work items, think thousands or hundreds of thousands, and I don't have enough in here to like make it sweat. So it's more about the complexity of the query, how many clauses you have, and then how many work items it will find. It's less about the length of the field names, because to Jira, it's just, custom field number 6. It's not summary, assignee, reporter. So if you think they're taking longer, take a look at the query and how complex it is to see if you can reduce complexity, or just consider how many work items it's finding. All right, and so far most people want to learn dates. Dates are an important concept in Jira. I use created and updated just because they're right here. And they're very confusing. So let's say created is greater than, I'm going to make a mistake here. I'm going to say July 1st, 2025. Now this is going to immediately break. And that's because JQL is expecting a certain date format. And this is something I always forget, and I always get this red angry message. It goes year, month, day, hour, minute. So the technical term is big endian. Bonus points if anyone knows what that is. Might be AN. Yep. The biggest value is at the front. And if anyone knows where that term comes from, I'll give you like a virtual high five. So you have to write it 2025, 0701. And here I can see all the work items that were created after July 1st in 2025. So this is the first thing that trips people up. It is the order in which you write the date. The next thing that trips people up is dates have to be in quotes. And that's because that / character is reserved. Jayquill interprets that as a command, not as a date. So I have to treat this like text. So I have to put my dates in text. The next thing that trips me up with dates are just the operators. Greater than, less than. This one, if the date is less than what you select, so dates before the 7th, and I might have misspoke earlier even there. This one, dates that are greater. Now, dates do also support functions, so I can kind of talk about both of these things. I very rarely will type in a date just like I showed you. I typically use these functions. These functions take the place of the date, and instead this will insert the start of the month, whatever this month is right now. So this is the same as typing in, is the created date less than 7/1/2025, July 1st, 2025. When I run this tomorrow in August, it will say created is less than August 1st, 2025. So these date functions make dates a lot more useful because they're dynamic. They update every time it's run. So if you have regular reports you pull or dashboards that update based on time, you can use these. Even better, in the parentheses, you can add a minus number to go backwards in time. So this is saying the start of the month that was 5 months ago, so February. This is the same as typing in February 1st, 2025. Or you could do a positive number to go forward in time. Rebecca, hopefully I just gave you something good there. And Rodney's point here, when I hit enter, Jira doesn't see the word created to search. It just sees some number that identifies the created field. So that's where we have these custom fields. It just sees 10299. So that's why the length of the field name doesn't matter, because Jira doesn't read that like a human. It reads the machine number. That was a very quick crash course in dates. Please go get hands-on with dates. As you start to learn them, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to get frustrated. That is okay. Reach out for support. Keep playing with it. Join us in Discord and share your concerns or your frustrations. Just come, commiserate with us. We've all been there. One other way, I mentioned I'm a professional trainer now. I have a number of Udemy courses. This one is on JQL. I think it's 2.5 hours. It's got hundreds of reviews. But it includes everything we spoke about and digs more into things like functions, including specific functions to specific roles. So Jira Service Management functions around SLAs or approval functions, those kind of things. So this is a great next resource, and this QR code takes you to a discount code for it. If you've got some kind of hardship, reach out to me directly, robert@hean.tech, and I'll see what we can work out if this would be useful for you. Also, feel free to email me questions, concerns, queries, conundrums, quandaries. My slide. Let me back up. This QR code. There we go. Thank you, Chad. Bonus points to Chad. Thank you again as my wonderful coffee sponsor, also keeping me honest with the slide zoom. I'd say it's a Monday, but I don't have that excuse. But this course is an excellent resource for folks looking to master Jira search and finding. It also covers a lot of other topics around finding, but extends on what we have spoken about today. And that QR code is also right under my head and right over there. So some next steps. We have started JQL. For those of us who have been using it for years, it's good to remind ourselves of these things, and it's good to think through different ways to approach them, because we will work with other people who need our help, who we can give a little bit of information. Even if this is all you've learned about JQL, you've probably learned something someone else can benefit from. So please get hands-on, but go talk to other people about JQL. When you're at your job today, if your job uses Jira, show a coworker one of these things. Even something simple. Hey, here's how to go find the filters menu. Hey, you can switch between basic and JQL search very easily. That can help you out. Wait, what did I do on this slide, Kythra? Massive shout out to Kythra. She's been insanely supportive of me. She's a technical writer. If you need technical writing, she's your person. Let's follow up in Discord. I want to know where I screwed this one up. I think it was the Zoom is what Chad was yelling at me for. But please keep engaging with JQL. It's incredibly easy to get discouraged because it's hard to learn and it's a new concept. What I have found is the more I practice it, the more I just try it from time to time, the easier it gets. And for me now, it's just muscle memory. So I promise if you keep engaging with it, keep working at it, it will be easy in a month, in 6 months, in a year. Join us in Discord, though. Lots of great folks, including myself, Kythra, Chad, many other people, hanging out, sharing information, sharing pictures of our cats, if you have cats, that kind of stuff. There are many blogs out there. The good thing about JQL is so far they haven't changed the structure or how it works. So if you find an older blog post, I'll use Rodney as the example. I'm sure he's got a lot of great information out there. Even if it's older, it's probably still good. I also want to thank you all. You all just stuck around with me for an hour to learn about JQL on your Thursday. We got about 25 likes out of 40 people who are still here. That is amazing. If you do want to look for other ways to support me, hit that QR code for the Udemy course or consider becoming a channel member. We have a coffee sponsor tier that gets you early access to videos and things. But thank you again all so much. Let me know in the comments what other questions you have. Jump into Discord to keep sharing. And otherwise, have a great Thursday. I'll leave the chat open for a couple of minutes just so folks can finish up their questions and things. But I really appreciate you all learning with me. Hey, Liz, if you want a CQL video, if folks would like a CQL video, which is Confluence query language, I will figure out something. Chad, there was I live near a fire station, and so you might have heard, usually my mic doesn't pick it up. Amazing point from Debbie. You cannot break Jira with a query. You're not changing data. You're not deleting things. You're just looking. So that also helps. Sheila, you're very welcome. Yvonne, good to see you. Okay. I'll need to figure out a CQL video. All right, folks. I will schedule one probably for later in August. We've got some family travel coming up, but I will figure out how to do. Oh, geez. Now they're all chanting with pitchforks. A CQL video. If you are watching this recording too, please use the comments down below to drop your questions. I will be happy to respond. Thank you all again so much. Really appreciate you all learning with me. Excuse me. Scott, you're welcome, my friend. I'm glad you're here. All right, folks. Have a great Thursday. I'll see you all soon.